That's right. The LAPD's like press conference last night. TMZ was first to report that there were 2 found in Rob Reiner's home, but the ages matched Rob Reiner's age and Rob Reiner's wife, Michelle Singer Reiner's age. We covered that when TMZ broke that story. And then a couple hours later, People magazine actually broke the story that the son was the suspect. Anyway, I'm moving on from the Nicki Minaj stuff because we're going to be talking about Rob Reiner. For a lot of you that don't know Rob Reiner, he's very interesting. I mean, he was a very interesting guy. Very, very much a big Democratic Party booster. The reason why I'm talking about his politics is because although he was allegedly, I mean, he was found dead alongside his wife in his home in Los Angeles last night, and had an incredibly tragic story at the end there. The reason why I'm talking about his politics is because the Republicans are talking about his politics. Now, under different circumstances, when a beloved, celebrated Hollywood director dies in such a gruesome fashion, I feel like that's almost like a uniting thing. Because we're not talking about Henry Kissinger, you know what I mean? We're not talking about Dick Cheney. We're talking about like a Hollywood director guy, right? He was a resist lib, as many Hollywood directors are, or as many Hollywood figures are, and it's just fairly, it's like a fairly normal position, right? But he's not, he's not within the. He doesn't have access to the halls of power in the same way that like a politician or even like a political operative has. So, although he did do some like political initiatives at attention and things of that nature, I find it really strange that there was any reaction such as the one that Donald Trump gave to his gruesome murder. Now, obviously, we'll first talk about what happened, or at least what we know has happened so far, and then I'll talk about the reaction as well.
Tonight, Director Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle killed in their Los Angeles home. A murder investigation is underway. I want to go back to Trevor Alt on the scene. Good morning, Trevor.
Good morning, Georgia. And there has just been a...
He was pro-Israel also, yeah, but he was all low-key. Even though he was pro-Israel, he also literally wanted the anti-Israel protesters at the DNC to continue protesting at the DNC. Like, he actually said that was the appropriate decision and stuff. So it's not even like he's not. Also, none of that obviously is related to him being stabbed, and completely irrelevant in this situation. Like, he's not like a ultra Zionist in the way that people might try to present him. Anyway, let's continue.
Development in this case, we have learned that Rob Reiner's son, 32-year-old Nick Reiner, is in custody by the Los Angeles Police Department. From what we've seen, he was taken into custody late last night and then arrested this morning. The investigation, of course, still ongoing. That murder carried out right here, Rob Reiner's home. His wife, Michelle Singer, a photographer, also found dead inside a grisly double, and a family member now in custody.
Los Angeles authorities have taken 32-year-old Nick Reiner into custody following the murder of his parents, filmmaker Rob Reiner and photographer Michelle Singer.
LA unit, ambulance death investigation, code 2.
The couple was found dead in their Brentwood home. Senior law enforcement sources tell ABC News the couple appears to have been...
The Los Angeles Police Department is now conducting an investigation at this residence here on Chadbourne, and that investigation will continue over the coming days.
Sunday afternoon, LAPD officers, along with the Robbery and Homicide Division, responded to a death investigation at the couple's Brentwood mansion. According to police, once inside the residence, they discovered two, a 78-year-old and a 68-year-old. A neighbor tells ABC News actors Billy Crystal and Larry David visited the home after police arrived. One neighbor said Crystal looked like he was about to cry. Police closed off the area as the investigation continues.
And Rob Reiner and Nick Reiner had previously actually worked on a film together documenting Nick's struggles with drug addiction and mental health issues. That was back a decade ago.
Yeah.
Nick Reiner now being held on $4 million bond. We still have not learned the official charges he's facing. We're expecting an update from the LAPD later today.
Home invasions aren't common in Brentwood, home invasions in general are not as common as the media would have you think in Los Angeles. Having said that, however, this is not a regular home invasion. They literally have arrested the son. Like they arrested his son as the suspect. You understand that, right? It's not like a home invasion or a robbery gone wrong. The most likely scenario from the details that have been released so far, considering that the son is in the custody of the Los Angeles Police Department at this moment, is that he stabbed them.
Yeah, if they wanted that.
Did you want it?
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I guess the initial press conference that they did was really bad, and ironically enough, it was actually People's Magazine that was the first to actually release the information that it was actually the son that was a suspect here. Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle were killed by their son. Exclusive sources. That's right. The LAPD's like press conference last night. TMZ was first to report that there were two found in Rob Reiner's home, but the ages matched Rob Reiner's age and Rob Reiner's wife, Michelle Singer Reiner's age. We covered that when TMZ broke that story. And then a couple hours later, People Magazine actually broke the story that the son was the suspect. Okay. But the initial press conference by the Los Angeles Police Department was incredibly confusing and people didn't understand what was going on. And then after the People Magazine broke the story, they revealed that it was the son that was arrested. Or the son is a suspect. He's in the custody of the Los Angeles Police Department.
Earlier with you guys, the chief has agreed to give you an update on the tragedy at the Reiner family home. Just understand this is based on some updates of the tireless work of our investigators from last night and through tonight. We're still at the very early stage of this investigation, but again,
Rob Reiner and son Nick got into a heated argument at Conan O'Brien's Christmas party over the weekend.
Thank you, Captain Bland. As he said, the information at this stage is still limited, but I'll share what we can. First of all, our hearts go out to the family and friends of the Reiners, a tragic incident. Yesterday at December 14th, about 3:40 in the afternoon, LAPD responded to a residence, the residence of Rob and Michelle Reiner, located in West Los Angeles Division. At that location, they found two deceased adults, a male and a female. Through the night, working with the coroner's office, they were able to identify them definitively as Rob and Michelle Reiner. We have our robbery division handling the investigation. They worked throughout the night on this case and were able to take into custody Nick Reiner, a suspect in this case. He was subsequently booked for murder and is being held on $4 million bail. Pretty much that's what I can share at this point, but again, a very, very tragic incident.
Can you talk about, I know Deputy Hamilton talked about the search warrant and how important that was with the inside. Can you talk about where that played a role in this and what you guys needed in order?
Yeah, you know, we use search warrants to be able to further our investigation, as you know, on all of these cases. I wouldn't be in a position to talk specifically about what the object of the search warrant was, but it's a critical piece of our investigations to be able to ensure down the road a prosecution. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, everybody.
This news is out of Los Angeles and the deaths of Rob and Michelle Reiner. I want to get back to Stephanie Elam. What are you learning, Stephanie?
Pamela, we have a big development here now. We can tell you that Nick Reiner, the 32-year-old son of Rob and Michelle Reiner, has been booked into a Los Angeles jail. That happened on Monday, happened today after his parents were found dead. Now, what is worth noting here is that it doesn't exactly say what he's charged with, but we do know that his bail has been set at $4 million, according to these jail records that we are seeing here, but still not clear on what has happened here. And family members are continuing to be interviewed as this investigation continues, but obviously this is a very large...
Yeah, he doesn't have... he's being held without bail now, for the record. No, he doesn't. Initially, he was being held on $4 million bail, and then now he's being held without bail.
Development here that there has been an arrest, booking into jail for this case, for the deaths of Rob and Michelle Reiner, and now learning that the person who has been booked into jail is their 32-year-old son.
Yeah, it's amazing development indeed. I want to bring in our chief media analyst, Brian Stelter, who's joining us right now. Huge development. I must say, Rob Reiner was such a major presence in Hollywood all of these years.
Isn't that your neighborhood? No.
But give us your reaction to what the breaking news is.
In that neighborhood, though, near that neighborhood.
That's right. And Rob and Michelle Reiner had 3 children, 2 sons and 1 daughter. They were most recently photographed together, all as a family, on the red carpet for the family's newest movie. Worked on, Rob had directed a sequel to This Is Spinal Tap. So they were out there being photographed in September, all together as a family. But it's going to obviously come up right away that Nick Reiner struggled for many years with drug abuse. He was homeless for a time. And that's something that Rob Reiner spoke about.
Yeah, he even made a movie about it. Like he made an analog. Like he made a movie specifically about his son's struggles being Charlie, right? Isn't that what it was called in 2015?
Was public about and was transparent about.
And he made the movie with his son.
The two men worked on a film together about 10 years ago. The film was titled Being Charlie, and it was loosely based on his son Nick's experiences earlier in life. Nick Reiner did not end up getting other screenwriting credits later, but they did come together for that collaboration about a decade ago. And Rob Reiner spoke very eloquently about learning about his son, about learning about Nick's struggles through that filmmaking process. Quoting from the Los Angeles Times back then, Reiner and his wife struggled as their son Nick was addicted to hard drugs, rotating in and out of rehab facilities like they were shopping malls. The couple wondered if there was an end in sight. So that's a decade ago. That is in the past, but it is relevant context about Nick Reiner, 32 years old, as people are going to be wondering now why he has been taken into custody and why he's been booked on this felony charge. And now, Wolf, we're going to wait for answers from authorities there in Los Angeles.
Yeah, we are waiting for answers. And Stephanie, on that point, what happens next for Nick Reiner? Do we know? And also, can you tell us anything more about him? We learned from Brian, but I know you can expand.
Yeah, I think what's also worth noting, right, we learned about this happening, that it happened in the late afternoon local time here in California yesterday. Looking at the jail booking document, you can see that Nick Reiner was arrested yesterday.
Him being homeless and a drug addict is not relevant, Chad. That doesn't make one a murderer. What the fuck? It doesn't make him a murderer automatically, but the police suspect him of doing this murder. So in this circumstance, it's contextually relevant that he did have issues with mental health, considering that this is, not this is, it feeds into potential motive.
That's a new development that we've seen in there, and he was booked into jail today. We did hear from the Los Angeles Police Department that they had to get a search warrant to further their investigation before they could even go farther with saying who they thought may be the suspect in the case and what may have been a motive. We were standing out here very early this morning when they took away the police tape, opened up the street, and now shortly thereafter we're getting this booking information from the jail. So just giving a bit of context.
The fuck?
All right.
I think we're losing our connection with Stephanie Elam, but we'll get back to her for sure. Brian Stelter.
How would you let your son be homeless if you have millions of dollars? Is that not messed up? Brother, do you think that was his decision? Do you think that, you don't know anything about their background, right? Why is your immediate assumption that he actually did this? Why is it that your immediate assumption is that his son, who was a whole ass adult, 32 years old at this point, why is it that your immediate assumption is, oh, it was probably he probably fucking let him out into the streets without fucking a support system, especially when there's an entire movie that they made together that documents some of those struggles. And the automatic assumption shouldn't be that he actually let him go. Sometimes you get in and out of, you get cycled in and out of rehab, and it's just it's impossible. No matter what you do, no matter what your friends and family do. If you have any friends or immediate family members that have struggled with addiction, you know what it's like when you have tried everything, every single thing you could have done. And then sometimes people just, people have a longer recovery time, right? A longer time to set themselves straight or something. And sometimes people don't actually end up finding that recovery. It happens.
You're still with us. Talk a little bit more about Rob Reiner's impact on Hollywood. As all of us who grew up watching Rob Reiner, we know he was huge.
And in so many different ways. That's one of the reasons why Rob Reiner was a special figure. It's why some people today are likening him to a...
Recovery only works when you have money? Yeah, except even with money, famously, recovery doesn't always work. It's not 100%. This is one of those instances where it may have been a situation where all the money in the world didn't fucking help, okay?
Mayor, an unofficial mayor of Hollywood. It's because he was not just a writer and actor. He was not just a director and a producer. He was not just a role model to younger filmmakers. He was all of the above. That's why we saw other legends like Larry David hurrying to his home in Brentwood yesterday, wanting to try to be there, wanting to try to be close to the scene. Reiner was larger than life in that way, partly because he worked for so many different decades. Getting his start at a playhouse in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, and then on the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour on CBS in the late 60s. Those writing credits then turned into acting credits, most famously with All in the Family. And you think about even the name of that sitcom. You think about him playing Archie Bunker's son-in-law. Family and that connection of family was really important through his decades. I mentioned that he had three
really
children with Michelle, and that was a love story in and of itself that spanned almost 40 years and helped inspire the ending of When Harry Met Sally, something we've been talking about here on the air this morning. So that's just going to intensify the curiosity and the concern about why one of his sons, Nick, has been booked on this felony charge, this unknown felony charge. Unfortunately, we're in a little bit of an information vacuum right now, but we do know a family member was interviewed by police last night, and now we know one of the sons is in custody.
Yeah, and tell us more about the reaction to Reiner's death and his wife's death. And just to mention, you personally spoke with Rob Reiner in the past. I mean, you had a connection to him that a lot of people didn't.
I was thinking about what it was like to sit down with him, because sometimes you never know what you're going to expect when you're talking to one of these A-listers who's been around forever, who's been out there in the movie making industry, who could do doing anything, talking to anybody. Sometimes they might be dismissive, but in the case of Rob Reiner, he made everybody feel at ease immediately. He was cracking jokes with the folks there on the set that day, having everybody in stitches. You could tell that he was a natural-born entertainer, and that came, of course, in part from his father, Carl, who was a comedy icon as well.
Yeah, I'm not like a big parasocial guy, but Rob Reiner is a pretty nice dude. I mean, he was definitely super lived up, but I mean, very, very nice guy overall. Like, he's not one of these dudes that's like in any way, shape, or form remotely problematic, I would say. And the reason why I'm mentioning this again will be relevant in the upcoming news segment because of the reaction from regular folks, even like in the MAGA base and stuff. It just, you've met him? No, I've never met him. But he just seems to be like an empathetic person in general, and directed a lot of movies that obviously had tremendous cultural impact. But there is one guy who seemingly is on a fucking insane conquest to make himself look like a real demon in this moment. And that one guy's name is Donald Trump.
Well, Reiner was married once in the 70s to the late Penny Marshall. Then he met Michelle while working on When Harry Met Sally, and that's why the end of the film changed the way it did, because Rob Reiner was newly in love. And then they had a really great working relationship for decades. I mentioned that film Being Charlie that was loosely based on his son Nick's struggles with homelessness and addiction. But there were films that Michelle and Rob worked on together, including most recently that sequel to Spinal Tap that just came out in September. I was inspired by an interview Reiner did with NPR earlier this year, saying that he wanted to keep telling stories, that even in this AI world, that in this corporate Hollywood world, that people are always going to want to connect to great storytelling. And that's what Reiner was able to do, whether through his own production company, through supporting actor roles on sitcoms and movies, or working.
Yeah, his he had a banger run. Here are some of the most iconic ones, obviously. This is Spinal Tap. following his acting stint on All in the Family, where he earned an Emmy Award for Best Supporting Actor twice for portraying Michael Meathead Stivic, a 1960s hippie Bronx-born. Reiner turned his attention to directing in the 1974 TV movie Sonny Boy, but his first big success came in the 1984 mockumentary This Is Spinal Tap, which chronicled the misadventures of a fictional British heavy metal band. This is a incredibly impactful movie because of like the mockumentary style as well. And then afterwards he had Stand By Me, The Princess Bride, again another major hit, fantasy fairy tale The Princess Bride, based on a novel by William Goldman. It had Robin Wright, Cary Elwes, and Billy Crystal, as well as Andre the Giant. A woman once told Reiner the film had saved her life, recounting how when she and several other skiers had been trapped by an avalanche, she quoted every line from the movie to keep herself and everyone else awake. Lines such as "Life is pain, Highness. Anyone who says differently is selling something." Then he made When Harry Met Sally in 1989. Reiner effectively set the standard for rom-com genre with When Harry Met Sally. It paired Billy McChrystal with Meg Ryan as two friends who fall in love, climaxing in one of Hollywood's most iconic restaurant-based scenes. He made Misery, another adaptation of a King novel. And then he made A Few Good Men, the 1992 courtroom drama, concerning the court-martial of two Marines for the death of a fellow soldier. And obviously, he was, he's just banger after banger after banger. And in his later years, he also was a big Democratic Party booster. He was involved in a lot of political activism surrounding marriage equality. Just an all-around empathetic person. Yeah, he was really known for speaking up for members of the LGBTQ community, trying to help lower-income people in various neighborhoods in Los Angeles. So he wasn't just a figure in front of the camera and producing and known for giving us great films throughout the years. He was really humanitarian. Reiner campaigned for early childhood education and healthcare, as well as gay rights. His other movies included 1994's North, starring Elijah Wood, 1995's The American President, starring Michael Douglas, 1996 film Ghost of Mississippi, about the trial of Byron Del Beckwith, who killed civil rights activist Medgar Evers. The filmmaker returned to the form following several commercial flops in 2007, The Bucket List, which starred Nicholson alongside Morgan Freeman. I fucking cried watching that, for the record. It might have been a commercial flop, but it was not a flop in my heart. As two terminally ill men who set about fulfilling their life ambitions before they died, helped popularize the now widespread titular term. It also is the reason why I know what Kopi Luwak is. That movie is the reason that I know it's like leopard shit made coffee. I don't know why that just like stuck in my brain, but from the movie Bucket List, I will forever remember. Yeah, it's just Kopi Luwak, one of the most expensive coffee beans on the planet, is actually just cat shit or something, or lemur shit. I don't know. It's poop. Okay, it's literally poop. Anyway. In 2015, the semi-autobiographical Being Charlie, co-written by Reiner's son Nick, looked in the painful relationship between a young man dealing with addiction and his father. 2 years later, Reiner directed and appeared in the 2017 film Shock and Awe, about a group of reporters covering the U.S. invasion of Iraq. In 2003, he also played father of Zooey Deschanel's character in New Girl. And and versions of his larger-than-life self on TV shows like Hannah Montana, Wizards of Waverly Place, 30 Rock, and Happy-ish. Reiner, who also appeared as a movie studio executive in 2020 mirror series Hollywood, was once quoted as saying, "If you're a creative person, you try to create things that are an extension of yourself." Is pasteurized poop, Hasan? You're wrong. Anyway, so yeah, he's done a lot. And he's done a lot on camera. He's done a lot off camera. All around empathetic, good guy, trying to do his very best, right?
With his wife on any number of films.
Yes, it isn't poop. Coffee beans are eaten by the animal, partially digested and then pooped out. You brew the bean, not the poop. I know. Oh my God. Everyone is fucking trying to correct me. I know. I can't even make a joke about one of the most expensive beans being a product of animal feces, okay? Without everybody in the chat being like, well, it's technically not directly poop. They're that you're consuming. It's actually an animal that poops out the bean in its entirety. Okay, it's still poop, okay?
Productions.
You know, and we also know a little bit more now about Nick Reiner, the son of the Reiners, and some of his past struggle with addiction, which in part inspired the movie Being Charlie, which Nick and his father worked on together. Right, Brian?
Someone's back from being groomed.
Yeah, I was struck by this sentence in the LA Times story as we all piece this together and understand more of the background. It said Nick Reiner did, quote, survive his descent into heroin and homelessness, getting clean, and he and his most famous father decided to deal with their family's troubled past in a most unlikely way by making a movie about it. Rob Reiner talked in interviews, again, this was in 2015, a decade ago, about how he was able to better understand what his son went through. And his son was in his early 20s at the time, Nick Reiner now 32. I mentioned they were photographed together on a red carpet. They were also photographed last year together at an event, at a restaurant opening. So there was a sense of togetherness. We know this family was fully together at some points. There are other photos, though, where you don't see Nick Reiner in the picture, where you see the other son and the daughter with their father. So there's a lot we still don't know yet about the history here, about Nick Reiner in recent years. A lot of people with questions right now, most specifically about why he has been brought into custody.
You know, it's interesting. Rob Reiner was not only a Hollywood director, but he was also heavily involved in politics. He donated to many Democratic political groups and candidates. And I had a chance, and I remember this vividly, of interviewing him back in 2004, just ahead of the third debate between President George W. Bush and John Kerry. Here's some of what he told me at that time. Listen to this.
The fact that we've 3.8 million people have lost their health insurance, almost 1 million people have lost their jobs, and over 6,000 people are dead or wounded in Iraq. These are grave mistakes, and we have a president who's unwilling to—
Yeah, how dare he? How dare he say such things? How dare he have an opinion on this? A thing that should transcend politics, by the way. A thing that should transcend politics. And yet, in the way that discourse takes place in the United States of America, even historically, even all the way back when he was saying this shit, this is still considered a ridiculous political statement. That's how it is. That's just how it has always been in this goddamn country, and that's how it will be forever. But once again, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because this should not be considered like a politically divisive subject, right? One party should be saying, oh, well, we just have a different method of solving these issues over the other. And yet, for some reason, this is considered a politically divisive thing to bring up.
to admit to any mistakes.
He also advocated for a number of causes, including marriage equality, early childhood education, and fighting big tobacco. Brian, tell us a little bit more about the politics.
Think about that. Yeah, that's from 22 years ago. That statement was from 22 years ago. Have things changed? Or are the problems that he was addressing 22 fucking years ago damn near identical now, if not worse? Isn't that crazy? I feel like living in the United States of America and doing discourse around politics is like Groundhog's Day over and over again. We just keep repeating ourselves. It's this like endless spiral, endless downward spiral as we just like constantly fucking fight over whether or not this is even an issue at all.
Of Rob Reiner.
Yeah, and unfortunately, President Trump is out this morning with a pretty crude, pretty crass post about Reiner, suggesting that maybe somehow he died because of his hatred for all things Trump.
I will say this. Look, I am Mr. Rude, okay? I am Mr. Hold people to account. I'm Mr. Someone's death doesn't mean that you should whitewash and launder their reputation, okay? But there are certain people, and I'm not saying this because like Rob Reiner was like on my side of politics or anything like that. I mean, he was definitely a lot more liberal than I am, right? I am someone who he might have even considered a radical, right? But I try to talk about people's background and what they have done with how much power they have, right? With what their intent was and what their impact was. Reiner was simply just a good guy, okay? Like he was just, that's it. He was just trying to do his very best. He was not divisive in any way, shape, or form. From my estimation, I don't think like even the Russiagate stuff was all that. Like he was lipped up. you know, like a pretty basic Hollywood director celebrity who had liberal opinions and rooted his worldview around empathy for those who have less than him. Okay? So the very fact that Donald Trump in this situation has come out of the gates swinging because Rob Reiner was anti-Trump is totally repulsive and totally fucking insane. So much so that before Donald Trump came out and made a Truth Social statement, which I responded with, what can you even say at this point? It's one of the most insane things I've ever read. A lot of Republicans were actually on the timeline talking about how, despite Rob Reiner's background, you don't see any conservatives celebrating his death. You don't see any conservatives celebrating his death. There were so many people on the timeline, like Jack Posobiec and all these people being like, remember when everyone was shitting on Charlie right after he was assassinated? Meanwhile, look at how the conservatives are treating, Rob Reiner's death. They all went out and celebrated that no one was actually shitting on Rob Reiner. First of all, there's a difference between Rob Reiner and fucking Charlie Kirk, okay? I'm sorry. One is directly a political actor. The other, directly a political actor who is a major advocate for all the cruelty associated with this administration and was actively working to get this administration in charge, succeeded, routinely collaborated with the administration, as opposed to like a fucking libbed up Hollywood director who every now and then makes a statement about gay rights and is like, is a booster for the Dems too, right? Like his major output wasn't politics. His major output was not being political. And even if it was, and I'm saying is not, even if he had a lot more political initiatives, right? Even if he was a political actor, you have to look at what he was trying to accomplish. You have to look at what he's trying to do. It is in fucking sanity to respond in this sociopathic manner to someone like Rob Reiner's gruesome murder. Okay? Donald Trump, of course, though, predictably, actually unpredictably, because I didn't even think he would go this far, because it's so fucking weird and gross and so repulsive that I think this like will actually be another turning point, another pivotal moment that actually makes his base go, "Ugh, you went a little too far here, sir." That's what I suspect, because he came out after some of these details were made public, and he said, a very sad thing happened last night in Hollywood. Rob Reiner, a tortured and struggling, but once very talented movie director and comedy star, has passed away, together with his wife, Michelle, reportedly due to the anger he caused others through his massive, unyielding, and incurable affliction with a mind-crippling disease known as Trump derangement syndrome, sometimes referred to as TDS. He was known to have driven people crazy by his raging obsession of President Donald J. Trump, with his obvious paranoia reaching new heights as the Trump administration surpassed all goals and expectations of greatness. And with the golden age of America upon us, perhaps like never before, may Rob and Michelle rest in peace. Now, I don't even know where to fucking begin with how psychotic this is, because I feel like it's one of those things that, you know, at first glance is immediately like, nah, I don't think the base is going to fuck with this. And even if you're seeing people on the timeline try to cope with what Donald Trump is saying, I don't think the normies are going to fuck with this, because from the normie Republicans' perspective, lifelong Republicans, people that voted for Donald Trump 3 times, they just know Rob Reiner is a libbed up guy who made cool movies that they watched and they enjoyed. Okay? So when Donald Trump comes out and says something so fucking insane, they look at that and go, okay, this is not defensible at all. And that's precisely the reason why Jack Posobiec, before Donald Trump released this statement, was talking about, you won't see the people on the right celebrating the horrific murder of Rob Reiner and his wife, Charlie Kirk's murder. Okay? I'm seeing coworkers parrot. They're not online. They're boomers and normies. Like what? Nah, I'm unhappy to report that the MAGA coworkers are barking like seals and parroting Trump this morning. I doubt it. Now, I think this will be like the Jimmy Kimmel moment, or this will be like the ballroom moment. No, it's not that I have too much faith. I have very little faith. I think you guys don't understand what I'm trying to say here. Republicans don't hate Donald Trump because Donald Trump comes out. Republicans don't actually cut away from Donald Trump for things that you would expect them to, right? Obviously, like the fact that the affordability crisis hasn't been solved is chipping away at his base of support from the independents and maybe even some Republicans that are experiencing and expressing discontent. But the major pivotal points is usually when he like goes after fucking Jimmy Kimmel or some shit. That was a big ding. Another major pivotal point was when he was shitting on Zelensky in the White House. It's stuff like that that actually does noticeably harm his approval ratings. It's all this aesthetic nonsense that you wouldn't normally consider as a major turning point that ends up in the long run playing into his disapproval rating increasing. Obviously, if it was truly America's golden age, as Donald Trump is claiming it is, there would be less people. There would be less critics of Donald Trump. So they all play a role here, but oftentimes the pivot points, oftentimes the important points of disagreement come from silly things like this. Silly, it's not necessarily a silly thing, but it is silly in the grand scheme of things in comparison to, like, you know, waging war with Venezuela. After promising that you weren't going to do war, or claiming that you were going to end Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Bro, are you going to trust your own assumption of how MAGA reacts versus eyewitnesses of how they're reacting? Yes. And the reason why I'm saying that is because those are anecdotes, whereas what I'm offering is not simply my own assumption, but instead what I've seen with Donald Trump's approval rating taking a fucking serious hit after certain events. Things that I normally wouldn't assume would cause people to actually chip away and experience buyer's remorse or decide, you know what, fuck this, I don't like this guy. That's why I'm bringing up the different points where Donald Trump has actually seemingly taken a hit on his approval ratings. One of them was the ballroom thing, right? Obviously, it's accompanied by all of the other chaos that surrounds this administration. But the ballroom thing, whether we want to admit it or not, was seemingly an issue for a lot of fucking boomers. They didn't like that he destroyed the East Wing of the White House. What do you want me to say? I would hope that people are more rational and actually express their discontent with the administration over ICE raids, or express their discontent over, not actually bringing about peace in the Middle East as he claimed he was going to do, or claiming he wasn't going to do a fucking war, but then, decides to murder fishermen off the coastline of Venezuela and shit. But that doesn't work. That's not something that the base gives a shit about. The base cares about the aesthetics. Okay? Trump's base, I mean. This is analysis. Okay? I'm not agreeing with it. I'm just telling you what I have seen thus far. Yeah, this is going to be like tearing up the East Wing in that it's obviously not as horrible or impactful in the grand scheme as half the things this administration is doing every day, but it's so audaciously ugly, it might just shock people into outrage. That's what I think as well. I think this is another one of those moments where a lot of boomers are going to be like, oh, that was actually very distasteful. I don't know why you did that. Because it is audaciously ugly and it's unnecessary. He could have just said, oh, well, despite Rob Reiner's attitude about me, I am truly sorry for the tragedy. He was a fantastic director, something like that, He could have said something like that. Liberals still would have gotten mad and been like, oh, he's not offering enough praise to Rob Reiner, but then that would have been a more defensible posture. But he just came out of the fucking gay swing and being like, oh, he died because of TDS. That's insane. Felix had a really good take on this that I retweeted, but Felix basically said, this is an absolute masterclass in posting. Only a true operator can take a tragic double murder that's completely unrelated to them and make fun of one of the victims in such a way that it seems they were at least somewhat responsible for it. Like, Donald Trump is literally taking blame for a double murder that took place. Okay? Because if you read what he's saying here, he's saying like, oh, this guy pissed off a lot of people. It's probably one of my fans that murdered him. Do you not understand how fucking psychotic that is? It's probably one of my fans that killed Rob Reiner because he was doing TDS. And also, it's good that he died. That's basically what he said for no fucking reason, absolutely no reason whatsoever. People are like, how could such a tragedy take place? How could such a tragedy take place? And while people are trying to understand what the fuck's going on, I mean, this is a high profile incident. This is a very famous family, right? This is so unshocking, brother. I think you need to talk to more boomers in your life and more normies in your life. This is the type of shit that they get grossed out by. Okay. Now, of course, it didn't end there. I know he doubled down. I'm going to get to it in a second. Just let's
Hopefully that's
finish
not going to
this.
get too much attention today, as it really muddies and pollutes the discourse. We're talking, unfortunately, about a Hollywood murder mystery, right? We have police on the scene investigating what is an apparent homicide. Unless it, somehow there was some accident at the home, and there's no indication this was an accident. We're talking about a situation where someone seemed to want Rob and Michelle Reiner dead, and there's a lot of questions I'm sure the authorities are trying to answer and will then answer in the public in due course. One of the most gripping parts of the reporting overnight was about the fact that a relative went over to the home and was there, and it was the person who originally was able to see these bodies. Your heart goes out to whatever relative that.
Breaking news this hour.
Yeah, Donald Trump came out and fucking doubled down on his statement.
Your statement on Truth Social after the murder of Rob Reiner. Do you stand by that post?
Well, I wasn't a fan of his at all. He was a deranged person as far as Trump is concerned. He said he knew it was false. In fact, it's the exact opposite, that I was a friend of Russia, controlled by Russia. It was the Russia hoax. He was one of the people behind it. I think he hurt himself in career-wise. He became like a deranged person, Trump derangement syndrome. So I was not a fan of Rob Reiner at all in any way, shape, or form. I thought he was very bad for our country. Yeah.
Bro, I'm sorry. That is so insane. Because if it wasn't, dude, if it was like Hillary Clinton, boomers would still get kind of mad because they love the aesthetics of bipartisanship. They will never let that go. Right? There are a lot of normie libs, down ballot normie libs and down ballot normie Republicans who fucking still believe in this like sense of bipartisanship and normal politics and stuff like that. That was such a driving motivator that Donald Trump literally lost to Biden's carcass in 2020. Okay. That was a big primer for a lot of people. Okay. I think a lot of you are forgetting that not everyone is as apathetic, because many of you are under the age of 40. Many of you are under the age of 30. We have different attitudes about politics nowadays than how a lot of boomers who saw most of their lives, these guys disagreeing on politics, but still being chummy with one another and think that's the appropriate way to go about it. When Donald Trump comes out and says this about someone, not even Hillary Clinton, not a political actor necessarily, but like someone like Rob Reiner, who was libbed the fuck up, especially after such a gruesome, high-profile murder, that's insane. That is going to come across as, in my opinion, as like a really distasteful, another turning point, in my opinion, that is really distasteful in the way that people perceive it. Okay, I know everything is segmented and you have different corners of the internet. You said it again. Yeah. How was he bad for the country? He made movies. How would he be bad for the country? Like, Charlie Kirk and Rob Reiner are bracketed in like very different categories, in my opinion. Like, one's entire output revolves around making movies, trying to make people laugh, trying to make people think. The other one's entire output is around advancing the agenda of politics. Same with myself, right? Charlie Kirk and myself, regardless of our differences in worldview, differences in opinion, we are political actors. Okay, we try to organize people. We try to get people to advance whatever causes we believe in. Rob Reiner, despite being libbed up and despite being like a Democratic Party donor, despite like being invested in the Russiagate stuff, is not perceived by most people as a political actor in the same way that Charlie Kirk was, which is why I think this kind of reaction is also going to be read negatively.
The son of the director, Rob Reiner, has been arrested and is in custody after his parents were found dead at their home in Los Angeles. Nick Reiner, who is the middle son of the couple, is being held on a $4 million bail. Rob Reiner and his wife were both found dead at their home in Los Angeles early this morning, apparently from stab wounds. He was a celebrated director whose work included some of the most memorable movies of the 1980s. And
I went on a far-right Trump forum to see what they were saying after this post, and even half of them were saying this was too far. This is a hardcore Trump-dedicated forum. Yeah. I mean, will those guys actually separate from Trump? No, of course not. Don't make this mistake. I'm not saying that this will be the moment where people turn on Trump completely. Maybe that was the misunderstanding from the audience where you thought that that's what I was implying. No, I'm saying that it's shit like this that actually, when compounded with a lot of Trump's promises being made and not being kept, cause effect of chipping away at his base of support. Here's what he is reacting to. Yeah. Oh, also, here's the other side of the story as well. This is how Rob Reiner reacted to Charlie Kirk's assassination as well, which is, I'm sure, a lot of what a lot of people are also posting on the timeline
horror.
too.
Absolute horror. And I, unfortunately,
obviously, you don't win any favors with a lot of these fucking goons when you are even remotely open-minded or remotely kind to your political opposition. But just, remember
saw the video of it, and it's beyond belief.
I'm sorry, but were you expecting another type of reaction from Trump? Yes. I think Donald Trump, if he had full brain processing power, would not have reacted this way. He would have made one singular snide remark about Rob Reiner's politics, but he would have said this is a horrifying tragedy. He was a great director, with many fans all around the world, something like that. I think this is a senile Trump behaving like a fucking mad king, because there's a line between sassy and just outright cruel. And depending on who you're talking about, you can be outright cruel. This is not a good person to be outright cruel about. Okay? That's what I'm saying. He moved from sassy to just straight up mean and ugly.
What happened to him, and that should never happen to anybody. I don't care what your political beliefs are. That's not acceptable. That's not a solution to solving problems. And I felt like what his wife said at the service, that the memorial they had, was exactly right. And totally, I believe, I'm Jewish, but I believe in the teachings of Jesus, and I believe in doing to others, and I believe in forgiveness. And what she said to me was beautiful, and absolutely, she forgave his assassin.
Yeah, he didn't say that about RBG. Yeah, he was civil when RGB died, and she was both far more politically relevant and not the victim of murder. He's definitely got the old man don't give a fuck syndrome. I can see that.
And I think that is admirable. Well,
I don't even agree with Rob Reiner on this assessment, but that kind of stuff is going to make boomers feel a certain type of way.
90s, such as when Harry met Sally, Stand By Me.
He said nasty things about McCain too and refused the funeral, but ultimately still did a lot of condolences. He just lost any sense of tact. Yeah. It's fucking nuts, man. I don't know how you guys don't see it. I feel like, I don't know. I mean, maybe in some ways you're just looking at what Donald Trump has done so far and the lack of response from the MAGA base as reason as to why this won't be as impactful. But I do think it's moments exactly like this one that play a big role in the way that boomers look at this kind of stuff and the normies look at this kind of stuff and think, this is really uncalled for. I can totally close my eyes and imagine a bunch of boomer normie Republicans being like, oh, that's really distasteful to speak about someone who fell in such a tragic way. And it's kind of crazy because these are the same people who were like, oh, you are going to get fired if you say anything about Charlie Kirk. If you even reflect on Charlie Kirk's statements that he was proud to make, okay, you should be fired. And these are the same people who are like, it's the left that's actually responsible for so much political violence because their words are so violent. Okay. It is rubbing some of his followers the wrong way because at the end of the day, Reiner's films were important touchstones of American culture for generations, and a lot of people, even with right-wing politics, deeply loved and cherished his work. Exactly. They're not reading it as like, a lot of these people are not reading this as, like even conservative boomers are not going to read this as like Rob Reiner was a fucking political actor who we hate. It's more so about this. If you're a boomer and you were an adult by the time, by like the late 80s and the early 90s, early 2000s, and you watch Rob Reiner's movies, was that more impactful for you in your development than how much you love Donald Trump now? That's it. Because if you are ride or die in the MAGA cult and you love Donald Trump that much, and there are plenty of people who do, they're going to say, yeah, this is fine. Fuck Rob Reiner. He came at the king, and I hate him for that reason. But there are far more people, I think, that watch his movies and thought, no, I like this guy. Like, I mean, yeah, sure, we have disagreements in our politics, but I like this guy overall. And it's really distasteful. It's really in poor taste to speak ill of the dead in this way. Because like boomers love saying shit like that. Don't speak ill of the dead.
At the same time that he was making brilliant film work, he was also deeply engaged. There wasn't a cause he didn't care about. He cared about immigrants. He cared about equality and justice. He spoke up in defense of democracy at a time when so many in the media industry, so many with a platform are afraid to speak. He put his money and his mouth where his heart was. And for Trump to have put that out today, I'm going to say it. Damn it, there's an American family grieving.
Yeah.
This is a tragedy, not just for the family, but for all who knew and loved him. And for the President of the United States to make this about him and a way to attack Rob Reiner because he exercised his American...
Yeah, that's the other side of this too. It's like very selfish. It's very self-centered, It's very self-centered to just like look at a situation like this and be like, well, he hated me, so fuck him. Like, maybe one of my fans killed him. That's insane. That's an insane thing to say, guys. I'm sorry.
Right to speak up with what he disagreed with is shameful, is disgraceful, and out of all the disgusting things that Donald Trump has done, this is right up there.
Yeah.
Few good men. This is Spinal Tap also. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump has launched an extraordinary attack on Rob.
Wait, dude, are you saying Trump is being self-centered? That's insane. Okay, guys. We know that already, okay? My argument is, will this be a revelation for some who have been, agnostic about Trump as voters of Trump? That's it. My assessment is, I think, yes. This isn't like the break-off point for the entire base. I don't know what it would take, as I've talked about time and time again. I think like if Donald Trump maybe was outed as having gay sex and like sucking off Bill Clinton, I think that could have been a turning point. Something as like grand and as insane as that, and only because he's gay, and only because he's gay with Bill Clinton, right? Like that could be a turning point for the base. But what I'm simply stating is, these things do matter. Slowly but surely, especially in the economic environment that Americans are in, where they are struggling, where they don't feel too good about the future of this country, these things do actually matter. It's like silly. It's shit like this in comparison to his initiatives of death and destruction around the globe that matter the most. It's sad to recognize, but that is something that pisses people. This is the type of thing that pisses his base off.
Reiner blaming his death on what he called Trump derangement syndrome. Rob Reiner was a supporter of the Democrats. In his post on Truth Social, Donald Trump said, "A very sad thing happened last night in Hollywood. Rob Reiner, tortured and struggling, but once very..."
How did they make him look so British in this photo? Sky News somehow made Trump look more British than he's ever looked in his entire life. I don't know how. Am I wrong? Look at this. Doesn't he? He looks like he looks like a Tory. Yes, very nice. Don't you believe it? Yes. Rob Reiner was not a very good guy. A very sad thing happened last night in Hollywood. Rob Reiner, a tortured and struggling but once very talented movie director and comedy star, has passed away. Together with his wife, Michelle, reportedly due to the anger he caused others through his massive, unyielding, and incurable Trump derangement syndrome.
Talented.
I tell you, I do declare.
Has passed away, together with his wife Michelle, reportedly due to the anger he caused others through his massive, unyielding and incurable affliction with the mind-crippling disease known as Trump derangement syndrome, sometimes referred to as TDS. He was known to have driven people crazy by his raging obsession of President Donald J. Trump, with his obvious paranoia reaching new heights as the Trump administration surpassed all goals and expectations, and with the golden age of America upon us perhaps like never before. May Rob and Michelle rest in peace. So that's the latest on Rob Reiner and his wife, who were found dead on Sunday at their home in Los Angeles. It was a home owned by Reiner, according to the police. Investigators say that they suffered stab wounds, and they had said that a family member is being questioned. And in the last few minutes, it has been confirmed that that family member who has been questioned is their middle son, Nick Reiner, who was 32. He is being held on a $4 million bail. It is known
he's no longer held on bail. He has no more bail. They revoked his bail.
Son Nick had previously battled drug addiction. Let's bring in our correspondent James Matthews, who can join us from America now. James, this is desperately sad news, isn't it? He was a very popular director of some really well-known films, pivotal films for many people in the 1980s, hadn't been quite so active in the film world in recent years, but had been quite active politically, had very much supported the Democrats, and it seems that this has really drawn the ire of Donald Trump today.
It has, Jane, and not for the first time. You have to consider whether or not President Trump has passed or failed the taste and decency test the day after.
I would never give credit to the existence of TDS, but I do believe in HDS, like I've seen it in real time. A friend of mine sent me a photo of a dude in the Hollywood Hills who had a Hasan Piker sticker on the back of his car that said like Hasan Piker and then a cross over it. That is HDS for sure. HasanAbi derangement syndrome.
This icon, this national treasure, has been killed. Many people have been paying tributes. I might say the prominent tributes are coming from people on the left of America's political landscape, President Obama and so on. He was certainly politically active, Rob Reiner, sure, huge in the movie industry, but also was a prominent campaigner on issues like same-sex marriage.
Jack Wagner? Okay, he is my friend, though. What the fuck? I didn't know if he actually posted it publicly or not. The fuck?
Campaigner for LGBTQ rights. He was an organizer against Trump being re-elected, so very active politically. But I suppose, you know, when you look at that social media tweet, in bad taste, I think many would agree.
Yeah, I don't know if he knows, but like I've known Jack Wagner before he had a podcast. Like you do realize that I can know people for many years before they reach internet fame. He happens to be one of them.
But also there's more than just the business of taste. I think Donald Trump is pointing
Knowing
to
someone
a
does
motive
not make you friends.
behind this homicide. He's pointing.
What is happening in the chat right now? Are you trying to debate? Are you trying to debate on whether or not a dude I've known for like a decade? Show me your friendship bracelet. A dude I've known for like a fucking decade, who I've had on the broadcast as well, is my friend or not? What the fuck's going on? Are you guys all right? What a strange thing. What a strange thing to argue on.
The finger at Trump derangement syndrome as a motivation, TDS as he would have it. I do wonder what detectives have to say about that, given that we are in, we are in a legal process now, having been engaged with the arrest of the son of Rob Reiner. There's also the business of any lack of condemnation for what's happened here. At no point does Trump say this is a bad thing, that people should not lose their lives as a result of what he says is Trump derangement syndrome. You might have thought the President of the United States would discourage people from engaging in that kind of behavior, that kind of political violence. He does not do that. And I do wonder how many people would see that as a tacit endorsement of what's happened here. So on a number of levels, there are questions about that particular social media tweet, but overwhelmingly far beyond the social media performance of the president, there is a real heavy sense of mourning in this country at the passing of, as I say, a man who was, a record, real smash hit in the world of movie making, and everybody remembers, when Harry met Sally.
Yeah, so we already covered his response. We already covered his background as well, life and legacy. But here, we'll just
As an
do
actor,
one
Rob
more
Reiner
life and
helped
legacy
define a
thing, just
generation.
to really
As a
drive home the point.
director, he helped create some of the most quoted scenes in movie history. Vlad takes a look at his legacy. Vlad, good morning.
Good morning, Nate. While many of us of a certain age remember watching Rob Reiner as Meathead in all.
Yeah, for the Zoomers, like, Rob Reiner is impactful for the Boomers. He's because he was all in the family, and also he's impactful for Gen X as well, which is Trump's base. Gen X, the lead poison generation, is big, right?
On the family. But it was behind the camera where Reiner really made his mark. He had one of the most impressive runs of any director in Hollywood history, directing almost 30 films from Stand By Me to A Few Good Men and When Harry Met Sally. Oh, boy. It was a breakthrough role that set the stage for one of Hollywood's most indelible careers. For 8 seasons, Rob Reiner was bleeding heart liberal Michael Stivic in the 1970s CBS sitcom All in the Family. He routinely butted heads with his staunch conservative father-in-law, Archie Bunker.
You are a meathead.
After All in the Family wrapped up, he went behind the camera, beginning a decades-long run as a director across multiple genres that remains almost unmatched. This is Spinal Tap was his first feature.
Most of the
11 and then
amps go up to 10.
Exactly.
Does that mean it's louder? Is it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it?
The mockumentary about a heavy metal British band would find its way into the lexicon for generations to come.
No good. My dad said it, I'm no good.
In October, he told 60 Minutes 1986's coming-of-age story, Stand By Me, was based on his relationship with his father, legendary TV comedy writer Carl Reiner.
As I'm writing this scene, I'm crying. I actually cry. When I was making it, I knew that he loved me, and he did understand me, but as a little boy, that's what I felt.
The Princess Bride became a cult classic.
Inconceivable.
And When Harry Met Sally set the template for just about every romantic comedy that followed.
Oh.
With Reiner's mom delivering a punchline for the ages.
I'll have what she's having.
The military tribunal thriller and drama A Few Good Men earned him his first and only Oscar nomination.
You can't handle the truth.
Off the screen, Reiner...
Like, think about how many iconic lines that are a normal part of like people's day-to-day that have come from his movies, dude.
He's also an activist, championing marriage equality, anti-tobacco efforts, and environmental causes. Reiner's latest act was a return to what launched him with Spinal Tap 2. He said decades-long success is no sure thing.
All the films I've made, I never know what's going to work, what's going to... I try to get something I like. And if I like it, then I say, well, at least I like it. Somebody...
Did he write these, or is he just the guy who takes all the credit after doing basically none of the work? Brother, what the fuck? Sounds like he was a good-for-nothing lib. Otherwise, they wouldn't be talking about him on TV. Bro, you have to literally just crank whatever is going on in your brain down, okay? You got to crank the woke meter down. You have to dial it back. Because this is just a demonstration of mental illness. Okay, calm down, dude. Are you okay? Like, I'm not even saying you gotta praise him and shit. But god damn, dude, you've maxed out on the woke. You've dialed it up to 11. You got to fucking tune it down. No, I'm not, lol. Okay, you're absolutely right. You're totally right. Just take it down to like a 4 or a 5 right now, at least for this segment. That is a truly insane thing to say. Like, it also is just like objectively, you're demonstrating that you don't understand what directors do. Like, you think a director's job is to simply sit there and take credit for everybody else's hard work or something, which is very strange. Like, you're analyzing an incredibly important part of artistic expression, a part of like the whole work that ties it all together as like simply a managerial role, like the guy who's sitting at the factory floor telling workers not to unionize or something. Like, oh well, the director is a little bit like a CEO, don't you think? like you're using your lack of understanding of what a director does to basically posture as though you're taking this like totally understandable, totally normal position. Like, yeah, dialed it up to 11. Thanks, Rob Reiner, for that. I know, that's why I was joking. That's why I said you're at an 11 right now. You got to tune it back down. You got to crank it back down to like 4 or 5.
Hopefully somebody else is going to like it.
Rob Reiner was 78 years old. His wife, Michelle, was 68. A fact here that perhaps people didn't know of when Harry met Sally to a happy one after he met his wife, Michelle. They were married for over 30 years, and Michelle also produced some of his films, including his last, Spinal Tap 2. The two are survived by their 3 children. We were just talking about...
When you show his body of work there,
he wrote
the wide variety.
Incomparable. Misery. The Sure Thing.
Misery.
I mean, he worked in every genre, and he worked...
Yeah, that person, for the record, that person just simply doesn't understand. He thinks like a director is the same as like an executive producer, just a money guy or something, or like an executive in a someone who's an executive at like the movie industry on the side of the studio or something. Like, no, a director is like the main painter that's putting the entire canvas together. Okay, regardless of their personal politics, like a director plays a massive role in every aspect of movie production.
In every genre as a master. And so when this news hit, I mean, I remember as a child watching Michael Stivic and feeling something even then. Of course, his body of work will live on forever. Corey Feldman, Ben Stiller, and our friend Jerry O'Connell, he just wrote, "Love you."
The people that knew him well are just distraught beside themselves. You still can't believe that they died this way.
A lot of depth. He cared so deeply about his craft and also his country.
That's right.
Yes.
And we loved him for it.
Yeah. All right, Vlad, thank you.
Anyway, so we're going to move on from this, but yeah, apparently TMZ exclusive, Rob Reiner and son Nick got into a heated argument at Conan O'Brien's Christmas party over the weekend. We don't know what the details are, obviously, and we don't know what it devolved into, but it is clear that Donald Trump's reaction here, I think, is pretty insane. But it is, I think, causing conservatives to also flip as well, which I think will harden the most loyal MAGA loyalists, but will also be objectively off-putting for a lot of the conservatives in the margins, right? Wait, so now if you have a legitimate political grievance against somebody who has been murdered, it's actually okay to dance on their grave? I'm trying very hard to keep up with these evolving civic norms and struggling. Yeah, Rob Reiner called for Trump to be jailed over lies. Not surprised Trump said what he said. No surprise Trump colluded with Russia. We've always known his presidency was illegitimate. Now it's been proven. For the sake of our democracy, this man must be indicted and jailed. Okay? Insensitive cuck. Like, I'm not Mr. Where is the civility at all, right? I am very uncivil in the aftermath of a timely or untimely demise of a political actor. Okay? And when I say political actor, I mean like someone who is engaging in advocacy, someone who is like their major contribution to society, whether good or bad, is in the realm of politics. Someone like myself, right? Or a politician. Someone who is directly in control of the decision-making process in the American government. And even then, I feel like, while I don't personally care in general, like in my own personal worldview, I don't think this is like what Trump is doing is that far-fetched from what Trump does on a daily basis but I don't think I am the norm here. And I am trying to educate you guys on what like normal people's feelings look like in this circumstance. I'm trying to see this not from my own personal perspective, but from the perspective of a broader, the perspective of people who even get mad when you fucking, tap dance on Dick Cheney's grave, for example, right? Or Henry example. Most people get very offended. Most normie boomers and Gen X get very offended when you speak ill of the dead, regardless. But especially when it's like a beloved figure overall, regardless of their own personal political convictions, if their major output is that they are directors and whatnot, or if they're, an actor or something. What is this? Correct. I don't know about him. That's why I asked the question, Law. That is correct. Are you capable of answering them, or even thinking critically about the subject? Or do you see a dead person in the news and just cry without understanding? It's that deep. Oh my God. Brother, please stop trying to debate people in the chat. Please. It's okay. You made a silly point that was unnecessarily vindictive, and you got yelled at. Like, this is why I give some timeouts here in the chat sometimes. It's for your own good. Instead of just like spiraling in, instead of crashing out and spiraling and furthering this conversation, it's all right to just like sometimes, take a deep breath and be like, all right, well, I felt small in this moment because I felt humiliated, but it's all right. It's not the end of the world. Okay. Don't even say take the L for people like this, because that's not going to help. That's only going to cause them to harden their position. It's fun. Sorry. Okay, I'm going to give you a day off. All right? It's going to be all right. I still love you, chatter. I'll see you tomorrow. Okay? In any case, Jack Posobiec went from, see, no one is making fun of Rob Reiner and his death, to, actually, it's totally fine that Donald Trump made fun of his death because Rob Reiner hated Donald Trump. All right? Yeah, but the guy and his wife were just murdered. It's horrific. I wish he was a bit merciful and forgiving. Like, you got Project Veritas people, Project Veritas people in Jack Posobiec's replies being like, hey, maybe Donald Trump should have been a little bit more chill about this gruesome double homicide by knife. Okay? Like, he does hold a grudge. I wouldn't have done it, but I have not had the things done or said about me that he has had to deal with. I can't say I agree with it, but I understand. These are people who are bargaining and trying to cope.